Hello, my name's Andrew John Teague. I'm the founder of a group called D.A.D.S. There's 24,000 members on it. I'm the co-founder of a group called N.A.A.P, which is the National Association of Alienated Parents. It's approximately something to 3 o'clock in the morning here in the UK. My job, I guess what I do now is I fight for children that are being abused behind family court doors. You may not believe this. You may think, nah, that can't be happening. But you've got to be in it to understand it. The reason I'm awake tonight is because I've had another member who has been suicidal. It's making about 119 members so far that have been suicidal or attempted to take their lives, or that are still here today. That's the most important thing. So I have to ask myself, of all these people that are going through this, the 119, if I wasn't here, what would happen to them? And the numbers, others, by admins on the groups that also help these members. So it means there's more than 119. I would say there's approximately over 200 in the last 2 years. It's a very difficult situation for what's called a non-resident parent position for them to be in. To go into family courts, to fight in family courts for their children. To be in their life. Only to hit obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. False allegations and harassment orders, help the other partners, the perpetrating exes to get legal aid. There are them out there that will state that that's not the case, but it is actually the case. It is much easier for the perpetrating parent to get legal aid if they can fabricate something or make the allegation that helps them. What these parents are going through is a phenomenon is called parental alienation, and this is beginning of this with family courts, which is the unhealthy attachment. That's where the child aligns to the one parent that is controlled. That controlling parent controls that child. Whether we'd like to believe this or not, that parent is coercively controlling that child, which is against the law, number one, coercive control. Number two, it's child abuse. What happens to these children is actually child abuse. It emotionally damages them, and the more it progresses and the more it carries on, it psychologically harms these children. Yet you'll find that agencies who want to rush through court cases, don't want to get involved in them. They're not really wanting to be in them week in, week out. And don't forget, some of these court cases can go on up to 2 years before some kind of secure contact is put in place. Stable contact with these children. The highest judges in the UK have stated in the past that to sever the contact between a child and a parent for a lengthy period of time is emotional harm. It is emotional harm. 3 months of a child being away from a parent and being with a controlling parent, a coercively controlling parent that brainwashes that child, that controls that child, indoctrinates, brainwashes, whatever you want to call it. 3 months of that is catastrophically damaging to a child. It can take anything from 3 to 6 months with someone, with patience, with some form of training for that child to be able to have, to feel relaxed enough and trust someone enough to be able to speak out and have their own true wishes and feelings thought. What's more damaging than that is many of these cases are not 3 months, are not 6 months. but they're a year, 18 months, 2 years, 3 years, 7 years. Can you imagine someone keeping you away, someone actually keeping you away from your child for 1 day, just 1 day? You just think that you may not see your child. You're going to see your child that day after. But imagine someone has taken your child away from you for 1 day. How you feel? How would you feel if someone took your child away from you for 1 day? It just makes you think what these people go through in family courts. It is far easier for the court system, lawyers, agencies and everything else to work where the child is at the resident parent. It's a title. It's called resident parent. Non-resident parent, resident parent. The worrying thing is when that title is being abused, when it's just used for their own purpose, their own gain, for what they want, not for what the child wants. Nothing to do with the child, but for what they want. They want more. Well, let me give you a couple of examples, shall I? If a controlling parent has the child more days a week than the other parent, in other words, the less days the other parent has, the more money they have to pay CSA. That's one. Two, they get that satisfaction, some of them, that they are winning in family court. There are no winners in family courts. There are only losers. And that's irrelevant whether it's the ex-partner that's turning around telling everybody, I've stopped him or her from seeing the kid. That's not winning. That's the child losing. Or if it's the other way around, where they've had good days in court and they say, I beat her or him in court today, it's still losing. Because the child are the ones that lose out every time, every single time. Many experts and professionals have gone in depth into parental alienation, the effect it has on the children throughout their life. Research has shown that there are a lot of failures that happen to children throughout their life, right up to when they're adults. They could turn to potentially prostitution, criminal activities, drugs, drink, an whole array of things from not having both parents in their life and from being stuck in the middle of this, which is family courts. A lot of people turn around and say that the children don't know, but the children do know, because I can assure you that them parents, the kind of parents that are doing this in family courts, are also bragging about it or talking about it in front of other people, belittling the other parent in front of the children. This is all emotionally harming to a child. Constant targeting of the parent and constant dismissing things with the parent is psychologically harming the children. When it's a constant thing that keeps going on and on and on, it is not just the emotional side of it, it is the psychological side of things that happen to a child, which the children may not always show straight away. It could be something later on that triggers it, that brings out the effects that this has on children. Some will show it straight away. Some will be more resilient. Some will just think, I'm stuck with this parent. Nobody's listening to me. Nobody wants to know. I'm telling people. Nobody's listening. This parent, I'm stuck here. Is this as good as it gets? Almost like the Stockholm Syndrome effect, which is something that they don't like to hear around parental alienations. Not the Stockholm Syndrome effect, but it's very, very close. In fact, the borderlines. Also, there is the Munchausen by proxy, which is another thing that these parents, some of these parents are certainly guilty of, if they make up excuses for the child to being ill because it's contact time, or because of, so that means if a child's in contact every week, at the same time every week that child could be ill with bad toothache or a headache or all these kind of things, which is then puts them in the line of being borderline Munchausen by proxy. In other words, they're just making up illnesses for their children and using them against the other parent, no doubt. Education is one of the key things that needs to be done with this. This is why we've worked on trying to get as much education out there as we possibly can, i.e. the N.A.A.P report, which we will be relaunching next week, along with an educational DVD for schools, contact centres and so on. And it'll be available for police or anybody that wants to watch it. The position that we're in is, without the education, nobody has the understanding. Without the understanding and being able to visually see the signs or see the no signs that the children show, then there is no help there for these children. In other words, they'll be ignored. They'll be brushed underneath the carpet, which is what happens a lot in family courts. It's kind of disheartening to hear that the courts throughout the UK use the terms "in the best interest of the child" or "the true wishes of the child" when they are not taken into account at all. They've forgotten children. And believe me, they are. We're not saying that every single parent out there are brilliant parents, but there are a vast amount of parents that are in this position because they've gone to the family courts to get justice, to have their children in their life, only to find out when they do get there that that's not the case. One of the things I find myself having to say to many new members is, look, don't expect what you think you're going to expect when you walk into family courts, because it doesn't happen. It certainly just does not happen. You'll have the false allegations first, then you will have the phones will be put out of the way so they can make up an allegation on harassment and get non-molestation order, because a non-molestation order is as good as getting legal aid as well. A PIN notice is as good as getting it. Any one of these things that will help them get legal aid. So what we know? What we know is this. Legal aid is a barrier that is in the way with family courts. Lawyers make money off it. They just pull the money down from the legal aid board, money that the general public pay into. But it's easy for the controlling parent to get legal aid because they've made the allegations. They've controlled the child, they've used the child, and everybody out there knows someone that has gone through, and they turn around and say, oh, it's so sad that the children are being used. What is so sad is what happens to them children for the rest of their life. What is so sad is what happens to their parents when they're continuously targeted. Healthy parents targeted in court just for what I call the want, what these parents want. It's what they want. It's nothing to do with the children. It's what they want. And many parents, healthy parents, when they do get contact, will see the anxiety, will see the worries and the stresses. And if the contact's been stopped on numerous occasions, that child is going to worry then. Is it going to be stopped again? Is my mommy or my daddy going to stop it again? And believe me, this happens. I know. Not think, I know factually that happens. There are a lot of things that I know factually that what happens. I myself went into family courts prior to this, in a relationship before this. There was a split up with me and my ex-wife, and we co-parented, which was so easy. Some people turn around and say they have hiccups along the way when they co-parent, but they get through them. We didn't. We had no hiccups. It literally went as smooth as can be. My son has done a video on this himself. I have statements from my ex and I have statements from my son. But then you get to a position then when there's a parent that's just simply controlling the child, abusing the word resident, abusing the word where they say settled, children are settled. So this is what happens in family courts. Many of you people out there may never know. You may be in a relationship with your children. You may never know. You may still keep contributing to the child abuse that happens in family courts. Because inevitably, if you're paying your taxes and your money is going into a fund for legal aid, and they pull this money down from the legal aid and use this to target a parent, which inevitably stops them from seeing their children and turns the children against them, which is called parental alienation, which has already been admitted by the CEO of CASCAF, the court-appointed officers that are supposed to be independent and impartial, then that's where your money's going. Inevitably, that's where your money's going. So, I guess one of the things we have to ask is, and harshly, is would people out there put money into something if it was beating children up or sexually abusing children or neglecting children? Absolutely, they would not. So we have to ask the simple question in life, because you don't know, because you have no idea what goes on, that you have to think to yourself, to justify it to yourselves, to everybody else out there that pays this money in, the taxes is paid, that pays for legal aid, millions and millions every year down the drain, that could be used in the health, could be used with extra policing, extra social services, extra things where it's needed, but where it is actually not needed. It is not needed there. It is just abuse of money. It is abuse of children. It is abuse of the resources such as the police, social services. Their resources are abused. They know better because they find it simpler to work this way than that way. I guess they have to find themselves having to make money up, and that's why we may be opening doors to forced adoption or wherever else. That's another story for maybe another time. But right now, the worry is that there are people that are killing themselves because of family courts. There are children that have slipped through nets in family courts because children are being misplaced, or there are non-biological parents that are being suddenly playing the role of the parent, and that biological parent on that side cares more about that new fella or new missus than they do their own children. And we've all seen inevitably what happens down the road with that. In many cases where children are seriously injured or indeed killed. One child is too many. For anything to happen to one child is too many, because it destroys a total family, both sides. One parent is too many. One grandparent going to the grave never having seen their grandchildren because of parental alienation, because of the attachment, the unhealthy attachment. And it comes in very hard, and it comes in very fast, and it's ugly. It is an ugly disease that is sweeping not just here in the UK, but around the globe. There are on average around 180 to 200,000 children every year that go through this. So now we're up to 4 million, 4.2, 4.8, maybe 5 million will touch this Christmas. That'll be without one parent or the other. That's a lot of children. 180,000 children plus go through this every year. Every year. In this country. Around the world, it's millions. Millions of children that are being silently abused, ignored and abused. I'm one of them people that has not been afraid to speak out and say what everybody else is thinking, because they have got the fear. Parents are fighting family court for their children, are bullied, they're victimized, they're criminalized, they are absolutely bullied, they are traumatized, coercively traumatized, PTSD. Can you imagine having that forced on you? Having that anxiety, depression, trauma forced on you by a system that is targeting. And no matter what they do, goalposts, hoop jumping, moved all the time, just to try and get justice for their children to be in their life. Every day, parents go to family courts, and every day they ask. I don't know how many I have actually had that have posted out there, off the court, wish me luck. How many have not been able to sleep the night before because they don't know what to expect? How many of them go through sleep deprivation? They also go through eating disorders. I know all about the eating disorders because it gets so bad when you're going through this in the beginning. You actually forget to eat. If you can understand that, that's how bad it is. That's how much it mixes you up. That's how much you mourn for your child that is kept away from you by everybody. So it makes you think. You can find us on Facebook if you'd like to support us and help us. The system does need to reform. It is broken. There are enough people out there who have researched this to have an understanding that this system needs to be reformed. There are top judges, which are in the higher courts, that have said the same thing. It's all the lower courts. This is where many of us end up. We're not lucky enough to get into high court. You have to exhaust all the lower courts first. From magistrates to district judges to circuit judges, or there's got to be a big enough reason to get it into high court. And this takes time. And one of the things that the judges have turned around and said, the higher court judges, that is, to keep a child away from a parent is emotionally harming. For a judge to make a decision on stopping a child from being around that parent is second to the death penalty. We do not longer have the death penalty here, so it's the worst thing. But we need to make sure that the judges are making the right decision and the right choices and the right things for these children, not for what is taken to the judge's ears. And I'll quote this from a judge. We don't know what goes on behind these family court doors. We have to listen to the professionals. And what they mean by that is the so-called professionals. None of them are trained in anything to do with parental alienation, attachment, or anything to do with it. None of them are. They're more in line with promoting it. They're more in line with helping to cause the deaths that happen. What we've got to remember is these parents that's out here that are doing this to these parents don't care. They have no apathy. They don't care about their children. They don't care if that parent kills themselves or if they put them in prison or whatever else. They do not care. They have no apathy at all. They have no thought for the children. Or they'll sit outside the schoolyards and they'll tell everybody, oh, I can't believe they're taking me to court. How terrible they're putting the child through that. They are taking them to court. What you can probably do is, if you hear someone doing that, is spin it all round on its axle, 180 degrees, because that's what's happening. They're targeting the other parent for their own benefits. Ask yourself, how would you feel if someone stopped you, restricted or stopped you from seeing your child for one day, for 24 hours, so you know that someone is stopping you? your child has been kidnapped for 24 hours, how would you feel? I know how you'd feel. By God, I know how you'd feel. And there are thousands of others out there that know how you would feel. And they go through it every day. They mourn their children that are alive. Bitterness, anger, resentment, all the things in life that are bad are what these parents are. It doesn't matter what they think of somebody else. Their children should not be brought into it. But that's what happens. And it's not something that you don't see every day. You see this every day on Facebook. You know, you see people that are, they've no apathy and no feelings and no care. You know, 10 people would rather sit down and watch, would rather record someone beating someone up and bullying someone rather than someone standing in and stopping it. People would rather film someone beating dogs than stop it. But at least that gets the awareness out there. And a lot of people get angry about it. And a lot of people, but it's like, is it makeshift anger? Is it because it's visual and they see it at that moment and then it's like they click an angry button, but then it's gone out their mind the next minute? But this happens every day. Every single day. And it does not stop. Even if parents that think to themselves, I can't put my child through this anymore. And I've had all these quotes of parents. I can't do this anymore. I can't cope anymore. My life is in ruins. I've lost everything. I may as well be dead. All these things that I've had. And these parents that just want their children in their life. If it wasn't for some of the groups out there, there would be a lot more parents that would not be here today. And I can tell you that in the last 4 weeks, there have been 4 or 5 weeks, there have been 2 deaths relating to what goes on here. And I've dealt with many that are unfortunately, they are not ones that have been on our group. And we have only found out through being on the groups. These are things that you would not know. You would never know some of these things. Like you wouldn't know that there was one in Hull where his life was, he took his life because of the agencies involved. They don't like to say that. It can be an array of things. But inevitably, it plays a massive part. And I know I've sat and dealt with a lot of these people. I've dealt with them. I've had to stay on the phone with people that have had ambulances come in and God knows what else. And I had to do welfare checks and everything else. And doing a welfare check, something that needs to be done when you have that worry about someone. But then you also get that worry that inevitably what they'll do is use that against them in family court because they don't care. Nobody cares. Nobody cares of how that person is dealing with mourning. If someone in your family lost their life, people deal with it in different ways. But the children are alive and they are mourning their children. And dealing with them is damned hard. Really hard. Heartbreaking. It's not hard, it is absolutely heartbreaking. I'm not ashamed to say. And that's why we're trying to get this out to the general public. People may have seen some of a couple of times, like Loose Women talked about it once. There was one on one of the, like Coronation Street, I think it was. But we need people to know exactly what is going on with these children. This is child abuse. It's already been admitted. It is child abuse. So please, you can find this on Facebook. If you do know anybody that's going through this, then please direct them to us. It's called D.A.D.S Against Double Standards, or N.A.A.P, National Association of Alienated Parents. There are other ones out there as well. But please, we do spend the time and take the time one-on-one with them. Alright? Anyway, I'm going to say thank you for now. Thank you.